Retrofit is one of the libraries that you're going to see in almost every Android application that you work on. It's a very popular library. It allows your Android application to communicate with the server by sending requests and receiving a response. And in this video, I'm going to demonstrate a very basic setup for Retrofit, and we're going to build on this setup in the future videos of this playlist. So let's get started. So first, you're going to need the dependencies for Retrofit. Okay, go into your build.gradle for the app level, and beneath these dependencies, just paste these dependencies. Okay, I'll give you a link in the description for the source code of this video's project. After that, you're going to click on Sync Now, and these dependencies will be downloaded. Okay, so that's the first step in setting up Retrofit. And next, we're going to look into the API that we will be integrating in our Android application. Okay, there's this website, the Json PlaceHolder website, which is a very great website so that you can practice integrating REST APIs, basically. Okay, and we're going to integrate this API having this URL. Okay, so that we can simulate, if you want, communicating with a server and retrieving these resources. Okay, so back into our Android Studio project, we're going to have to map that response to something that we can work with in our Android project. Okay, if you notice, you may know this or not, but this format is a JSON format. Okay, here you can see the beginning of a JSON list, and after that you can see a bunch of JSON objects. Okay, so this response will return a list of objects, each object having these attributes. Okay, you're going to have a user ID, an ID, a title, and a completed attribute. Okay, that's what you're going to work with. And in order to make this simpler for you to work with, head back into your Android Studio IDE. And after that, just click on the file right there, go to Settings, and in Settings, you will find a section for your plugins. Okay. Here, you're going to search for JSON to Kotlin. Okay. You have this plugin. You need to install it so that you can copy and paste that JSON response and have it transformed into a data class. Okay, so go ahead and install that extension or that plugin. And after that, right here above the main activity in that package, you can right click, go to New, Kotlin data class file from JSON. Okay, click on that option, go back to your browser and copy paste that response. Okay, back in your Android Studio IDE with this pop-up, you're going to paste that response and of course hide this text. I don't even know why we got that text. And after that, all you have to do is to specify a class name. Okay, I'm going to specify the name as todos. And you can also add some advanced features. Okay, because you're going to generate a data class, you can determine whether the attributes will be val or var. You can determine whether they will be nullable or non-nullable, and a bunch of other stuff as well. Okay, we're going to leave that at default and click on generate. Okay, after that, you're going to have two data classes. You're going to have a todos class, not a data class, and a todos item data class. Okay, the todos will just be the list of todos item because this response is in essence a list, and this will be a list of todos item. Okay, the todos item will contain a completed, an ID, a title, and a user ID attributes, okay, or variables in our case. So that's the response that we want to work with, and that's how you map it from a JSON presentation to a data class in Kotlin. And after that, you're going to have to create the retrofit interface, okay? You need this interface so that you can interact with the retrofit library so that you can make that API call, okay, to retrieve that resource from the server. So here, you're going to go to right-click, New, Kotlin class or file, and go to Interface. Okay, you're going to name this something like API service. Okay, so you have to work with an interface, and you're going to need to have a get method. Okay, we retrieved this data by using an HTTP get method. So back into your Android Studio, you're going to create a function which is get todos. You can have it return either this todos class or a list of todos item. Okay, I'm going to have it return a list of todos item. I don't really need this todos class. I can just delete it because all I need is this todos item. Okay, so I'm going to retrieve a list of this todos item so that I can map this response. Okay, because as we've discussed, this response returns a list of these JSON objects. Okay, and we mapped that JSON object to a data class in our code. Okay, and we named it todos item. Okay, so that's about it. And in order to have this annotated as a get method for our HTTP request, you have to write at get. And with at get, you're specifying that this is a get HTTP method. Okay, keep that in mind. And with get, we're going to pass a URL. Back in our browser, you can see that this is the URL that we're working with. Okay, and you can think of this as the base URL and this as a section for that base URL. Okay, because we're going to integrate several API calls in the future. So we're going to need that to be our base URL and whatever is after that to be the section for that base URL. Okay, so copy and paste todos from the browser into your get annotation. Okay, by default, when you do that, it is as if you're appending something to a URL. Okay, and here we're choosing to append todos. And alternatively, you can also copy and paste the whole URL into your setup. Okay, so it's up to you. But in our current tutorial, we're going to have this configured as a base URL and this as a section, okay, that we can access with that base URL. So back in our Android Studio project, that's our basic setup. But here we're going to add one more thing, okay? This will be a suspend function. And I'm going to do that so that I can really make use of Retrofit and Retrofit's adapter, okay? Because you're going to have to map this response to something that you can work with in Android. Retrofit has adapters for that, okay? And one of those adapters is the Coroutines adapter. So by default, if you annotate or add the suspend keyword to a retrofit function like this one, it will be executed on a coroutine, okay? So that you can avoid using something like the retrofit call, okay? Which can be written like that. And I don't really like to use the retrofit call because then you would have to call the enqueue method, and that really adds some boilerplate code if you want. Okay, working with coroutines is more straightforward and recommended as well. So keep that in mind. After that, we're going to create a singleton so that we can provide this API service for our code to interact with. Okay, so right there, we can also right-click, create new Kotlin class or file. This will be an object because it's a singleton, and we're going to name it Retrofit Client. Okay, and in Retrofit Client, we're going to need three things. The first thing will be our base URL, which I mentioned. Okay, and a base URL will always be a constant. So you can write private const val base underscore URL equals to, it's going to be a string, and it's going to be this value. Okay, copy and paste that from your browser into your code right there. After that, you're going to need a retrofit instance. So go ahead and create that. That will also be a private variable. So this will be private val retrofit equals to, and here we're going to create our retrofit instance. Okay, so you can write retrofit with a capital R dot builder dot, before the dot you have these parentheses. Here you can write base URL. We're going to add our base URL, which we provided right there. So here we have builder.baseurl.add converter factory. Here we're going to use our Json Converter Factory. Okay, so we're going to write Json Converter Factory dot create. Okay, or Gson, not JSON. And Gson is what we're going to use so that we can convert JSON into Kotlin code. Okay. After that, we're going to write dot build. Okay. After you write the dot build, if you hover over retrofit right there, you can see that it is indeed returning a retrofit object. Okay. We're building our retrofit object. We're adding a base URL. This base URL, which we specified right there. And we're going to use Gson so that we can convert the JSON from the response into the Kotlin code that we can work with. Okay. And finally, of course, with all the builder patterns in Kotlin, you have to write the dot build at the end. Okay. And after that, we're just going to expose the service. Okay. So right there, you can write val API service of type API service equals to retrofit, this retrofit variable which we created right there, dot create, and with create we're going to pass our API service class.java. Okay, so this variable right there will now be exposed to our code through this retrofit client. And I made this into an object because I really want this configuration to only happen once in my application. Okay, so this will in all cases be created once, but I want the retrofit object right there to be built just once throughout the life cycle of my application. And after that, we use that retrofit object right there, which is configured with our base URL and converter, to create this API service interface, which we created right there, and expose it to our code. Okay, and we're going to work with that in our MainActivity file. So let's go to our MainActivity file right there, and we're going to interact with the retrofit client in order to access this API service. Okay, because we're going to call this method, and this method is a suspend function. Okay, so to work with suspend functions and activities and fragments, we're going to use a coroutine. So write coroutine scope with a capital C, taking as a parameter dispatchers.io, because this is an IO operation. I'm sending a request and I'm waiting for the response. And after that, write .launch. Okay. Here, we're going to assign the value returned from this method to a variable. Okay. Let's call it response. So just create a response with val response equals to retrofit client dot API service dot get todos. Okay, and all you have to do after that is just log the response. Okay, so here you can pass a tag as response if you want, and you're going to write response dot toString so that you can see the API call and the logs. Okay, and one last thing that you're going to do for this setup to work is you're going to go to your manifest file and add the permission to access the internet. Okay, because you're making this API call through the internet. Okay, I hope that was straightforward. When you're done with that, just run your application. Our app has launched successfully. That's our emulator. If I go into my logs, let me clear that and just search for response. Okay, let's run our application again. I think I cleared all of the logs. So that's our app. Go to your logcat again. That's the response from the API call. Okay, as you can see, you have a list of todos item, which is this data class, having the values completed, ID, title, user ID, and so on. Okay, you have a list of these todos items, and here, as you can see, that's the same response which you are receiving in your browser. Okay, so that's the basic setup for Retrofit. Okay, we're definitely going to take this response and display it inside a recycler view. We're definitely going to add some interceptors, and we're going to look into the post method, put method, delete method, and a lot more in this playlist. Okay? If you like my type of content and you find it to be relatable, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next video.